My father-in-law was adjusting the veil on my husband's mistress inside a luxury bridal salon while I stood across the street canceling the credit card they were about to use to pay for her gown. I did not scream. I did not storm inside. I did not slap anyone, though for a second I could see myself doing it, right there between white satin and champagne glasses. Instead, I stood behind a black SUV in the parking lane on Oak Street in Chicago, holding my phone so tightly my fingers went numb. Watching a 26-year-old woman twirl in front of a mirror like she had already won my life. My father-in-law, Richard, clapped like a proud parent. Not like a guilty man. Not like someone standing inside the betrayal Ophi's daughter-in-law. Like a man who believed the world had always been built for men like him and women like me existed to keep the lights on quietly. The woman laughed and touched his sleeve. My husband, Evan, stood behind her with that nervous half-smile he used when he wanted Pia Pleto think he was charming instead of weak. Then Richard pulled out a gold Amex. My gold Amex. The supplementary card I had given Evan 5 years earlier after he said he needed it, for emergencies. I had paid that bill every month. I had blamed the rising balance on gas, client dinners, business expenses, inflation, anything except the truth standing behind glass in a $9,000 wedding dress. My first instinct was to invent a reason. Maybe she was Richard's client. Maybe Evan was helping a cousin. Maybe there was some explanation so ugly it still hurt less than the obvious one. Then Evan stepped closer to her, kissed the side off her neck, and whispered something that made her smile at herself in the mirror. That was the moment my marriage stopped being sick and became dead. I backed away before they could see me. My coffee slipped from my hand and burst open on the sidewalk, dark liquid running toward the curb like something bleeding out. A woman asked if I was okay. I told her yes because wives are trained to lie before they are trained to leave. That morning was supposed to be ordinary. I had taken a half day from my job at a commercial insurance firm because of a dental appointment downtown. The dentist canceled 18 minutes before I arrived, and instead of going back to the office, I decided to walk, breathe, buy overpriced coffee, and pretend for 1 hour that me life belonged to me. For 12 years, I had worked 50, sometimes 60 hours a week. I handled major claims, angry clients, impossible deadlines, and still came home to cook dinner because Evan said takeout made him feel financially irresponsible. That word sounded different later, after I saw the charges. Evan had been struggling for years as a real estate appraiser. His income was always about to turn around. His father, Richard, a retired car dealership owner with expensive opinions and a cheap heart, constantly told me I was too intense, too ambitious, too masculine. A husband needs to feel needed, he once told me at Thanksgiving, while Evan sat beside him eating the turkey I had cooked. I had tried to make Evan feel needed. I had praised him for small checks. I had covered late bills quietly. I had let Richard insult me because I thought keeping peace was part of being family. That night, Evan came home at 7:35, kissed my forehead, opened a beer, and asked what was for dinner. Chicken, I said. I had made chicken and garlic roasted potatoes. Green beans. A marriage funeral served on white plates. He ate while watching a Bulls game and complaining about a client in Naperville who didn't respect his expertise. I stared at his hands. The same hands that had probably zipped that woman into a wedding fantasy funded by me. At 11:20, he said he was sleeping in the guest room because my restless breathing had kept him up. I had never breathed wrong until he neighed distance. When the house went quiet, I opened my laptop at the kitchen table. I logged into American Express. My password failed twice because my hands were shaking. When the charges loaded, I felt something inside turn cold and clean. 14 months. Rent at a high-rise in River North, $4,200 every month. Lease payments on a Lexus SUV, $1,180. Jewelry, restaurants, spa weekends. A furniture store, airline tickets to Miami when Evan had told Mayhay was at a conference in Milwaukee. Monthly transfers through a payment platform to a name I did not recognize, Chloe Whitman. Eyes arched her name. Chloe Whitman, 26, interior stylist, lifestyle posts, soft curls, white nails, quotes about manifesting abundance. She had taken photos in the apartment I paid for. She posed beside the Lexus I paid for. In one picture, she wore the Cartier watch Evan had given me for our 8th anniversary and later claimed he lost during a work trip. I did not cry. I clicked harder. Evan's iPad was still synced to his messages. I found the thread under a heart emoji. Chloe wanted a date. Evan promised he would be free by summer. Richard was not only aware. He was coordinating deliveries, paying deposits, advising Evan on how to handle me. Then I saw Chloe's last message. My birthday is the 28th. If I don't have the ring and dress by then, I'm done being your secret. Evan replied with a photo of a diamond ring. Not mine. A new one. Probably bought with my credit. I sat at my kitchen table until 3:12 in the morning, staring at the evidence of a life I had accidentally financed. My husband had not just cheated. He had built another marriage on top of my labor and let his father hold the ladder. And the most important thing I realized before sunrise was this: none of them knew I knew. For 39 days, I became the wife they thought they had. I brewed coffee. I packed leftovers. I asked Evan how his meetings went. I smiled when Richard called to tell me I should slow down at work before I made Evan feel useless. I even hosted Sunday dinner one week after seeing him in the bridal salon. And watched him compliment my mashed potatoes with the same mouth he used to bless my replacement. Every night, after Evan retreated to the guest room with his phone, I built my case: screenshots, statements, rental records, jewelry receipts, message threads, Instagram posts, the Lexus lease, the bridal salon deposit, the Cartier photo. I made folders by month. I printed everything because my older sister, Diane, always said paper made betrayal harder to deny. Diane was a forensic accountant, divorced twice, allergic to excuses. She sat at my kitchen table one Saturday morning, reading the statements with a face so still it scared me. "If you forgive him," she said, "I will personally throw you into Lake Michigan." I'm not forgiving him. Good. Then stop shaking and start documenting. Feelings scream. Paper wins. She connected me with a family attorney named Marla Bennett, a woman with silver hair, red glasses, and the calm voice of someone who had watched powerful men become toddlers in conference rooms. Marla told me to open a separate bank account, redirect my paycheck, move exactly 50% of our joint savings, and touch nothing else until she filed. "Do you want revenge?" she asked, "or do you want leverage?" I thought about Chloe turning in that dress. I thought about Richard's proud hands on her veil. "I want freedom," I said. Marla smiled. "Then we make freedom expensive for him." The first twist came on April 22nd, when my boss called me into his office. I thought I was being fired. I had been distracted for weeks, existing on coffee underage. Instead, he closed the door and offered Meth regional director position. A 28% raise. A private office. A team of 11 under me. He said, "You have carried this department for years. It's time your title caught up." I signed the paperwork with a hand that did not shake. My professional life was rising at the exact moment my marriage was preparing to explode. Evan did not notice. That night, when I told him, he barely looked up. "That's great," he said. "Does that mean you'll be even busier?" Richard called the next morning. "Congratulations," he said, though his voice had no warmth. "Just remember, a promotion should not replace a husband." "No," I said softly. "Nothing could replace what Evan has become." He did not understand. That made it sweeter. April 28th was Chloe's birthday. Evan dressed like a man going to be admired. Navy suit, new cologne, polished shoes. He told me he had a full day of appraisals in the suburbs. He kissed my cheek and said, "Don't wait up." "I won't," I said. There was a suitcase in my trunk, divorce papers in my bag, and 3 complete copies of every receipt. At 2:41, Richard left me a voicemail. "Claire, sweetheart, Evan forgot his charger. We're near Oak Street. If you could drop it off, that would be helpful." Sweetheart. I deleted the voicemail. At 2:58, I sat at my kitchen island and called American Express. "I need to cancel the supplementary card under Evan Miller." The representative asked if the card was lost or stolen. I looked at the photo of Chloe wearing my watch. "Misused," I said. "At your request, access will be deactivated immediately." "What time does that take effect?" "Right now." It was 3:03. Somewhere inside that bridal salon, Evan was about to hand over my card with the confidence of a man who had mistaken my patience for stupidity. I placed the divorce papers on the kitchen table. Beside them, I laid out the highlighted statements, the printed messages, the Instagram photos, and a yellow note. "Sign, or I report fraud." Then I locked the house, got in my car, and drove to Diane's condo. My phone started ringing at 3:27. Evan, then Richard. Then Evan again. At 3:44, Chloe called from Evan's phone. I let it ring. At 4:10, Evan texted, "We need to talk. This is not what you think." I laughed for the first time in weeks. Then another message appeared. Not from Evan. From Chloe. "You ruined my birthday, you bitter old cow." I stared at those words until the room blurred around them. Then I forwarded the screenshot to Marla. She replied in 11 seconds. "Excellent. Keep letting them talk." That was when I realized the second twist. They were not just panicking because the card declined. They were panicking because the person they had underestimated had finally stopped paying for the performance. I learned the details 2 days later, and I wish I could say they did not satisfy me. According to Marla, who heard it from Evan Saturny, Evan had taken Chloe to champagne brunch before the appointment. Richard had toasted, new beginnings. Chloe tried on the gown again, the one already altered to her body. The consultant brought out sparkling water and Avelvet box for the ring reveal. Evan presented the diamond. Chloe cried. Richard cried. Then the card declined. The consultant ran it again. Declined. Evan called American Express in front of everyone, putting on his offended successful man voice. The representative told him the primary cardholder had cancelled his access at 3:03. Chloe stopped crying romantic tears and started crying real ones. The consultant asked if they had another form off payment. Richard tried his card. It failed because he had quietly maxed it out, helping Evan cover deposits. Evan tried his debit card. Insufficient funds. The woman who had called me bitter stood in a $9,000 gown she could not afford, wearing a ring that suddenly looked less like love and more like evidence. Evan drove home furious and found my papers. He called 29 times that night. I answered none. The next morning, he appeared at Marla's office without an appointment. He cried in the lobby. He said he had made a mistake. He said Chloe meant nothing. He said his father had pressured him. He said I was the real love of his life. Marla called me from her office. Do you want to see him? I was standing in my new office, looking down at the Chicago River under a gray spring sky. No, he is crying pretty hard. Tell him toin voice Chloe. I've paid enough. Evan signed 16 days later. He did not fight because the word fraud sat at the table like a loaded gun. The house stayed with me because I had paid most of the mortgage. My retirement account stayed mine. My credit was protected. Half the joint savings became mine before he could drain them. Marla also negotiated repayment for several personal charges disguised as business expenses, but the real collapse happened outside the legal paperwork. Chloe could not afford the River North apartment. Without my Amex, $4,200 a month did not manifest itself into reality. The Lexus went back. Her Instagram, once full of luxury brunches and abundance quotes, went private. Before it disappeared, her last public post read, "When people show you who they are, believe them." Diane made me promise because he was cruel. Because sometimes poetry needs a witness. Evan moved into a one-bedroom apartment above a dry cleaner in Skokie. His appraisal work slowed after rumors spread that Chicago's real estate world is bigger than a small town but smaller than a man's ego. Nobody wants to trust property values to someone who could not even hide his own invoices. Richard's fall was quieter and meaner. His wife, Evelyn, called me in June. She had always been cool to me, the kind-off woman who smiled without warmth and believed a daughter-in-law should be grateful for being tolerated. When I answered, she was crying. I owe you an apology, Claire. I was in my backyard, wearing gardening gloves, planting hydrangeas along the fence Evan always said were too dramatic. For what part? I asked. A long silence. For suspecting something and choosing not to look, for judging you when you worked late. For saying a woman who out-earns her husband makes him wander. I was wrong. My son used you. My husband helped him. Her voice cracked. You were better to this family than we'd served. The apology hurt more than some insults because it arrived too late to protect me, but it arrived. I heard from Diane that Richard ended up sleeping in the guest room of his own house. Evelyn did not divorce him, but she stopped sitting beside him at family dinners. His grandkids stopped asking him for advice. At church, people still shook his hand, but not as long. For a man who lived to be the patriarch, becoming quietly irrelevant was a slow execution. The biggest twist came in July, when Marla called and told me Chloe wanted to speak. No, I said immediately. Listen first, Marla said. She claims Evan told her you were terminally ill. I sat down. Apparently, Evan had told Chloe I had a degenerative condition and that our marriage was emotionally over, but he could not leave me too abruptly because he was a decent man. Richard backed the story. He told Chloe I was unstable, controlling, and cruel, and that Evan needed help escaping me. That did not make Chloe innocent. She had worn me watch. She had accepted my money. She had sent me that message. But it revealed something colder than lust. Evan had not just betrayed me. He had rewritten me into a monster so he could play hero in another woman's bed. So I agreed to one meeting. Not for forgiveness. For closure. We met in Marla's conference room. Chloe arrived without makeup, younger than I remembered, her confidence stripped down to embarrassment. She looked at me like she expected me to scream. I slid the Cartier photo across the table. That was mine. She lowered her eyes. I know now. You knew enough then. She cried, but quietly. She admitted Richard had told her the credit card belonged to Evan's business. She admitted she did not ask questions because the answers would have ruined the fantasy. Then she pushed a small box toward me. Inside was the Cartier watch. I'm sorry, she said. I took it, not because I wanted it back, but because some things should not remain in the hands that helped steal them. When I got home, I did not put it on. I sold it and used the money to repaint my bedroom deep blue, the color Evan always hated. I bought new sheets. A new mattress. A simple silver watch that cost less than one of Chloe's brunches, but every time I looked at it, I knew the time belonged to me. In August, I went to Maine alone. I rented a small cottage near the water, drank coffee on the porch, and listened to waves hit rocks with a patience I wanted to learn. I did not post photos. I did not need applause for surviving. Sometimes I still wake up expecting to hear even in the guest room, whispering lies into a glowing phone. Then I stretch across my whole bed and remember there is no guest room version of my marriage anymore. No secret apartment. No hidden lease. No blonde woman wearing my anniversary gift. No old man blessing my humiliation like it was tradition. A gold card can buy dresses, dinners, diamonds, and a beautiful lie. But the person paying the bill gets to decide when the music stops. I stopped it at 3:03 on a Sunday afternoon. And if I ever again saw Richard adjusting that veil in the mirror, smiling like my pain was just another family expense, I would do the exact same thing. Only this time, I would not shame.